A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. This is the last part of our special Cannes Lions 2014 series. So sit back, relax, as in the next 30 minutes, we bring you some of the biggest names in advertising, as well as give you a gateway to the windows of the marketing and advertising world. But before we do that, here's a look at the hottest buzzword that made waves at the Cannes Lions 2014 festival. Take it away.
It's not that traditional digital advertising isn't working, it is. It's that native advertising often brands a better opportunity and offers users a better experience.
Native advertising
is
I think
is contextualizing advertising.
I think native advertising is like the Native Americans, like Indians. This year has been the year where people are actually paying attention to where are we going. And native advertising goes through this, between how can we go from the web banners, what's being traditional, how we're going to focus on the experience. This is what like our clients are looking for, and most important is what brands must look for now.
native advertising. A lot of new words come up every year, and it seems to be like, oh, this is the new thing that's going to change everything. But really, I think it's always the same at the core. It's always about a good idea that's going to move people on the inside.
I think native advertising is anything that is introduced in content seamlessly so that people can't tell whether it's advertising for the brand or it's the content.
I think I might have a pretty cynical view on native advertising. I think there's a lot of chatter about it because it works. But the reason it works is because you're tricking your consumer, right? It's native advertising, so people think that it's real content, but in actuality it's not real content, it's paid for.
I think native advertising is a story told by a brand that is naturally consumed in an editorial environment.
If you haven't heard Mondelez's Bonin Bough discuss how the roles of agencies, marketers and platforms will transform, then you've possibly missed out on a critical worldview. Bonin, for those of you who are not familiar with him, is the man leading Mondelez's current marketing revolution by integrating mobile and social with every campaign. He's also the man who's embarking on the new wave of social. Which is why at Cannes I caught up with Bonin to discuss precisely that and also get his view on what he thinks is good, bad and ugly in the current communications landscape and how he's going about his business to keep pace with this ever-changing, impatient universe. Take it away. Thank you so much for joining us. Bonin, truly a pleasure to have you on Brand Equity.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Bonin, you're really a man who's known to speak his mind, been very candid about how, marketers, advertisers and agencies should be transforming themselves going forward. So I'm going to be touching on all of that. One thing that's really interesting about what Mondelez has done is Project Sprout.
Yes.
So I want you to throw some light for our Indian audience, for marketers, advertisers and agency folks on what really Project Sprout is. And, they're not going to be very happy. The advertising folks are not going to be happy with Project Sprout because it's really threatening as a model, so to speak. But, why does Mondelez think that is important and how it's working out for you?
So I think Project Sprout is a very exciting new approach to working with creative agencies. And I actually think, while on the surface it might feel threatening, I actually think it's actually bringing us closer to creating a culture of transformation that drives our brands. Really, it's the brainchild of Elisa Esquivel, who runs our strategic planning alongside Dana Anderson, who's my boss and SVP of advertising. And the whole idea was, how do we identify category challenges that we have?
Right.
In this case, it was across gum. And then how do we throw that challenge out to multiple agencies and test very small projects to see if they actually move the category, and then once we identify those that work, really begin to fund behind that. So we asked 5 unique agencies, in this case smaller agencies, to come to the table to provide solutions in 5 different markets. We would shut off other activities so that we could actually test in isolation to see if there was impact. One of the amazing projects that came out of there was a piece of clothing design, which was created by an agency party. And the whole idea there was, we have all become so busy with our cell phones and our digital devices. Imagine if you had clothing that actually cut you off from your digital device to actually give you a chance to experience and breathe the world in. But I think what's interesting is you have these projects that are delivering small innovations that prove that we can actually move the category, and then from there being able to move quick enough to fund greater or to bring those projects to bear in greater scale.
Do you think the agency on record, that structure and that model where you're married to one creative partner, is totally irrelevant in today's day and age?
Yeah, I think the agency of record structure is very challenged, and I think that it's probably something that is a fleeting approach. Here's what happened. All the skill sets that were required begin to proliferate more and more. And then you had agency proliferation, whether it started with the digital agencies and the mobile agencies and the social agencies and experience and and you can go on, so on and so forth. And the traditional creative agency structure kind of remained the same, but we as a client were now forced to bring in all these other agency partners and then collaborate and try to orchestrate and make them work. At the same time, by the way, fees were becoming enormous. So we're never financially going to be able to support that. But even more importantly is that all of those pieces were reliant on only us to be the orchestrator to bring those things together. I think what you see in the agency of the future is an agency that looks more like a round table, and our creative partners will actually take on the role of orchestrating how those pieces work together in close combination with the client. I also think that the continued fee-based structure, which is retainer business, I think that changes too, because I think there are communication ups and communication downs where you need more focus and less focus, and I think that changes. So at the end of the day, when I see the world, I see a world where you have the maker movement transforming industrial revolution, transforming what's possible to bring to life. You have the tech players, you have the startup, you have the traditional creative, and all of those things need to come together. And I think the creative agency transforms into a conductor of a beautiful symphony, and they can bring in instruments as necessary to deliver kind of a great piece of music. I think the other piece that we're seeing, and I squarely sit on the media side, is the reinvention of media agencies. We've talked a lot about how do we make media as creative as the creative is. So now we have to have creative media thinking in order to break through as well. It's not good enough to just buy spots and dots.
Sure.
You actually have to integrate the creative message into your media thinking.
That's the most complex formula ever. But with this whole picture that you've just painted, my question to you is, as the brand, where does accountability lie? With whom? The ringmaster, or the central creative agency that's going to pull this entire machinery together for you? I think the brand itself needs to take accountability, and I think, look, it's hard work. It's not easy anymore, and so I think that's changed as well. Is that it's become even harder. But I do think it's incumbent on our internal brand management teams to take more of a role in that participation and bringing that brand to life. One of the biggest things is you'll hear inside of organizations, you'll hear this: I can't focus on the creative because I'm too focused on driving the business, right? I'm focused on running the business. Yep. I don't want to win awards. I just want to sell more product. I saw the most boring presentation I've ever seen in my life, and the guy told us specifically, this is going to be the most boring presentation you've ever seen in your life. And what he did was he looked at brands, all the same categories, those that won awards and those that didn't win awards. And then he looked at their business performance. And those that won awards beat their competition hands down. But more interesting is those that won awards, the products actually had a greater price elasticity. People were willing to pay more money for that product because the communications made it culturally relevant, made it a brand I must have, all those things. And I think what we fail to realize is that
communicating products, Apple, Beats, you name all the success stories that we look at, that brand communication and building that brand transforms the business even more than just getting the product on shelf.
I want to talk to you about mobile, and I know that you've made a statement recently where you said that marketers who avoid mobile because of the fact that it can't, because of the problems it has in terms of measurement metrics, are simply being lazy. I want to talk about why it is important to invest in mobile. Sure, because it's part of our extension of our bodies, but the fact is, if you can't measure it, how do you know about return on ROIs?
We can't spend on it because we can't measure it, and because we can't measure it, we can't spend on it. That cycle. Who do you want to break? If I came to you in the 1950s and I said, I want to sell you this great thing called television, you'd laugh me out of the room. You'd tell me, you know what, radio is working just as fine. We have no way to measure television. I don't want anything. 3 bold marketers made a bold decision to jump in, Unilever, Kraft, P&G. There was others around the table, but those primarily were the major investors. And what they saw was that consumer consumption was eclipsing where advertising investment was on the platform, and they saw a huge opportunity because that's where consumers were at. We're facing the exact same thing now. 24% of media is consumed on a mobile device, but less than 1% of media investment goes to mobile. So one, I see a huge upside opportunity as an early stage investor or as an early investor in there, in the same way that we reap the benefits of being early in television, lowest rates in the entire industry. We built a capability of how to be the greatest TV advertisers in the world, and we see an opportunity in mobile. But even more important than that is that, hands down, this is where consumers are spending every waking moment. And so to let the lack of measurement be the determinant of whether you're going to participate in the greatest consumer revolution, communications revolution, is insane to me. Instead, why aren't we as an industry pushing harder on those organizations that are responsible for measurement? Why aren't we creating experiments that allow us to measure? So that's exactly what we're doing. So I can tell you right now, if I target you outside of a convenience store, I can see up to 10% lift in actual purchases in that convenience store. Why? Because we built an experiment that allowed us to structure that, and we continue to expand that. So to me, I think it's an industry downfall. It's the laziness of marketers that are saying, I know that I use this every single day of my life. I know that I stand in the aisle, my heads are down, and I'm not looking at the gum displays, and I'm not, I know that this is happening, but I'm too lazy in my professional life to actually force the industry to be able to measure the impact of mobile.
Do you think organizations today are, geared to provide knowledge, training, and learning for their current talent pool, as well as the talent pool that they'll probably get in, today, tomorrow, and day after? Are B schools doing their job?
How do you build a culture within an organization that encourages innovation, that encourages individual growth, that helps to create the type of organization that shapes the type of marketers that are really going to drive the future? Because at the end of the day, culture eats strategy for lunch. It's all about making sure that you are really, really investing in your people, and you're helping them become a better them, and that you're shaping towards where the future is going, and that's going to continue to drive the growth of your business. We are seeing over the next 3 to 5 years, I believe there will be an attack on middle management, the likes that we've never seen. I think part of it is that a lot of institutions that people graduated from and organizations they work for probably didn't prepare them to be marketers of this generation. Sure. And then and we did a little bit of studies that showed that less than 1% of the course descriptions for the top 100 business schools even use the word emerging digital or mobile technology. So that means your foundational skill set is not up to speed. Now, that was okay 10 years ago because the only way to become a vice president in these big organizations was to work at another big organization. The problem is, 10 years ago, we started building companies that were digital companies. And now we have folks, same education, but run the same P&Ls, but the difference is they have digital affluence. Every single one of them I talk to say, I'm tired of working at Amazon. I'm tired of working at Facebook. I want to sell chocolate. I want to sell cookies. I want to sell cars, diapers. And all of those guys are going to quickly make their way into the ranks of these organizations. We have to ask ourselves, have we created or have we made sure that our talent is ready to compete for what marketer of this generation need to look like. And even more importantly, as a business, we have to ask ourselves, if we know there's a reskilling that needs to happen, we'll never be able to hire our way to do that. We actually have to focus on grooming the talent that we have inside our business today, right now. And so I think more importantly is the challenge I would offer to every single organization is ask yourselves, are you actually preparing your talent for the next 3 to 5 years? Because if you don't have the right talent, you're never going to be able to drive your business in this new economy.
On that note, Bonin, this was truly a pleasure. Thank you so much and hope to see you in India.
Such a pleasure for me too, and I hope to see you in India as well, and it's always a pleasure to have a chance to speak with you.
If not food for thought, at least some serious perspective for our Indian folks back at home. On that note, we're heading into a quick break, but up next, it's Candid Speak with none other than Martin Sorrell. Back with that conversation in just a bit. Stay tuned.